Our next story is an example of creativity in action. I just mentioned that every great leap forward was the result of someone's imagination. But history is not just about big leaps or great leaps forward. It's about small leaps as well. In fact, there are many, many more small leaps than big leaps. And even those small leaps are the result of someone's imagination. So all of the leaps forward, small and big, can be done by anyone. Not just Da Vinci, not just Edison, not just Einstein. They can be done by anyone. They can be done by you. They can be done by me. So during Quest for Creativity, we're going to look at many different inventions. And not only the inventions themselves, we're going to look at the stories behind the inventions, because that's what's really interesting. And that's where we can learn something. And more importantly, we're going to take a look at and we're going to find out what it takes to make those leaps of imagination and creativity, which ultimately lead to innovation. Our first invention is by a guy named George. This is George. Okay. George was an engineer and an entrepreneur, and he had a great interest in zippers, fasteners like this. Okay. And he wanted to improve on them, of course, that was his job. And as inventors do, George was always thinking and always wondering, I wonder if this will work. I wonder what happens if I did this. So George thought about how things fasten together, but not just how man-made things fasten together, but how things in nature fasten as well. And George loved to go hunting. And one day he was hunting with his dog, and he noticed that parts of plants were always attaching themselves to his clothes, to his pants, and even to his dog's fur. And he was curious about that. And over time, his curiosity grew and grew. And so he looked at this a bit more closely. And over time, those observations and his curiosity led him to imagine something that imitated nature. It was a fastener that imitated nature. And as more time passed, he finally found somebody in the textile industry that would help him make two types of cloth. One type was imitating the plant, the burr, and the other type was imitating his clothing, or the dog's fur. And if you put those two together, what do you get? Exactly, Velcro. He invented Velcro. Interesting thing about Velcro is it didn't take off immediately. It wasn't a success. After about 10 years, though, NASA noticed it. And NASA found an application for it in the space program. And after that happened, then it went everywhere. And we find it on clothes, we find it on bags, you name it, it's got a Velcro fastener to it. And another very interesting thing, very interesting for us, because we're exploring creativity and how things are created and how the imagination works. What were the thinking skills, the creative thinking skills that were involved in inventing Velcro? Let's take a look at that. Where did the idea come from in the beginning? He was an entrepreneur, he was an engineer, and he went hunting. What happened when he was hunting? He saw, he observed, he paid attention, and then that's where the whole thing began. So it begins with observation. Observation is a very important subskill for creative thinking. And then he had his work and he had his hobby, hunting, and then what did he do? He made a connection between the two. Making connections. Another very important subskill of creative thinking. And after making that connection, then it takes some time. He takes the concept of the burr, of the nature. He takes the concept of the fastener, the zipper that he's been working on, and he puts those two concepts together in his mind. And after a while, they synthesize and they become the invention. They become Velcro. So synthesis is the third creative thinking subskill at work here. So as you can see, it's observation, it's making connections, and then the synthesis. We'll look more at these different subskills in subsequent videos. But the point here is subskills are important and that you can do it as well. George was just an ordinary person, kind of observed something when he was hunting, and voila, an invention. You can do it too, I can do it too. Okay, see you next time.